going. Hi, it's Ethan Musolini, the Merchant of Success. Welcome once again to the Personal Branding for Success. And I was reflecting about this topic today, and the thought which crossed my mind was most people, when they think about brands, they think about corporations or organizations. They talk about a corporate brand or an organizational brand. And we usually forget that even as individuals, we are brands. And therefore, how you take care of your brand, your personal brand, is going to affect your personal trajectory in your personal growth or career growth or business growth. Because, the last night I was also thinking that, people usually say that people buy you first before they buy the product or service that you have. But when they say they buy you first, what they are really buying, what we forgot to pin exactly, is that they buy your personal brand first. So when they say they buy you first, we mean the totality of your brand or your personal brand. That's what they buy first. And as such, it is a very, very critical piece to our lives and to our careers, to our businesses, or whichever path that you want to take. So that's like the primer in terms of what this subject is all about, okay? And then I'll give you the details. Now, some of us who are joining us for today, the model I use to train and teach is clarity. We need to be clear about the what and why. We need to know the right mindset to use for that, what we are targeting. Then we need number 3, we need to be clear on the strategies that will get us to where we want to go. And of course, then we need the tactics, and with the tactics or the skill set, that's where we need the frameworks and the actual tactics to actually realize or bring to life the strategies we've mentioned. And then finally, we need the mastery. How do we then embody what we are learning or what we have put here to make sure that it's in our hands and our feet, to make sure that we use them and to move forward, okay? So that's the framework I use to get for, to go through trainings like this or sessions like this. All right, so let's start with the clarity, first of all. Now, let's look at the depth of personal branding. So when we talk about a personal brand, it's what comes to mind about you when your name is mentioned or when someone thinks about you. And when you say when your name is mentioned, ideally when you are not around, because you also know there are some people who will say nice things when you are around, and when you are away, when you've left, then they start mentioning different things. So there are some people who may not be truthful. And therefore, it's what is the image and what is the perception? What comes to your mind? Because I'll tell you why this is crucial. When I say, if I was to say, okay, think about this company, whether it is ABSA or Coca-Cola or MTN or Airtel or British Airways or Kenya Airways, certain images are flashed in your head. And as such, that's what the brand is. In the same way, it is what do people think about you, or what is their perception of you when your name is mentioned. And by the way, just to show you the power of this personal brand, what it is. So let's do a quick test here. And here I want us to interact. When I mention a name Oprah, who comes to your mind? When I say Oprah, who comes to your mind? Just type the full name. Who comes to your mind? When I say Oprah. We are going to get two names. I want you to think about who comes to your mind when I say Oprah, and which full name comes to your mind when I say Ronaldo, okay? Just type. Okay, for Oprah, Gorete says Winfred, Bell says Riches, you can say Oprah Winfrey, football, Oprah Winfrey, successful. No, I meant what what is the full name that you get? Okay, not the brand, but what's the full name that you get? Okay, Patricia said Oprah Winfrey, the richest woman. Ronaldo, soccer superstar. Oprah Winfrey, equity Christian. Ronaldo, the lion of football. Oprah Winfrey. Great. So the point I wanted to emphasize is that people, individuals can own a name. It's not only Winfrey. That's Oprah Winfrey is not the only owner of that name, Winfrey. Not even the name Oprah. No, I'm sure there are so many Oprahs, and I'm sure there are millions of Winfreys. But when we say Oprah, she owns that brand, that name. There are so many Ronaldos in the world, especially in Portugal, Spain, and South America. But guess what? Cristiano Ronaldo owns that brand right now. And also brands can be seasonal, because that brand Ronaldo at one time was owned by another Ronaldo, Dalima or something. So the point I'm making is, even if we were to speak at a national level, there are certain names, once we mention them and say, oh, Juliana, then, okay. So there's someone who owns that name, Juliana. Yet there are many millions of Julianas out there. So the point I'm making is, the personal branding is very, very powerful, to a point of someone owning the name, all right? So definition, so your personal brand is your professional reputation. It's how you choose to package and communicate yourself, your career, and your skill set. It's all embedded in that. You know, what's your position? What's your reputation? Okay, cool. So now, when we talk about brands or personal brands, your brand could be, for example, smart, passionate. You know, there are people who are so passionate about, in terms of how they package themselves. Yeah, Goretti mentions Juliana Kanyomozi. Yeah, exactly. So passionate. It could be, for example, that your brand is that of a welcoming personality. Your brand could be that of excellence. And again, notice that these are synonymous also with corporations or companies. And as such, you can be that brand also. Also, there are people who have brands of being dishonest, okay? And there are people who have brands of being positive. So part of my branding also is to focus on what is positive, on positivity, for example. That's something and I'll be talking about that. There are people whose brand is that of rude. And I'm sure when I mention all these words, when I flash these words, someone pops up in your head. Straightforward. There are those who are known as being blunt, straightforward. They don't miss the words. If it's a spade, boom, it's right there in your eyes. So just out of curiosity, how many of us, just flashing these words, do these words trigger certain names in your head? Yes or no? Type the word yes or no. These words, do they trigger certain names in your brain when you see those words? Yes or no? Just type in the chat box. Everyone, and of course, some of us, I always like it when all of us are active, because it tells me that we are live and engaged and kicking. So when I ask questions, please type super fast so that I get to know that we are together as a family. I'm seeing yes, 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 from Gift, from Julian, from Patricia, from Jojo. I can attach a name for every word. That's what Justine said. Me too, exactly. That's what I find amazing. Nathan says certainly. Grace said, yes, certainly. Julian, yes. Grace, yes, yes. So there you go. Each word, yeah, I'm sure if I asked you, just like Justine said, if I asked you to attach someone's name on each of those words, that's it. Guess what? People are attaching you to a certain word or a couple of words. All right? Just the same way you're attaching someone. That's the power of personal branding. Now, why is personal branding very important in this age and era? Number one, it will enable you to create a legacy. And I'll be talking about legacy towards the end. So meaning once your brand is your inheritance. Your brand is your history. Your brand is your legacy. Therefore, if you want to create a legacy, you need to think about personal branding, and I'll be talking a little more about that. A brand helps you to stand out from the crowd. Yeah. Just the same way I said, there are people who own names. So when you mention a certain name, boom, you stand out from the crowd. You have millions of Julianas, and yet when you say Juliana, boom, certain name. There are millions of operas, yet when you mention opera, boom, certain. So that's what we mean by standing out from the crowd and by consciously branding yourself. Number three is that it increases your market value. Okay. People will say, oh, your brand. Ah, okay. That one is a brand. Oh, he has a strong brand. Oh, she has a weak, oh, she has a brand worth associating with. Well, and when we say market value, that's why organizations or corporations are willing to pay a certain amounts of monies to superstars or to athletes or musicians and all that. Why? Because they have a strong brand, therefore they can attach a value. There are people who are experts at actually attaching a value and say so and so's brand is worth so many millions of dollars. So if someone's brand is worth $10 million upon, doing certain calculations, I don't know how they do that, but they're experts who do that. Therefore, a company would happily pay $4 million or $5 million because they know in return, then they will recoup so much money. I used to like Michael Jackson, and at one time they used his ad, Pepsi used his ad, and their sales shoot through the roof. What? Because he had a brand and they could attach a value. And you notice, for example, Pepsi's been investing a lot in superstars, and well, I don't know, but they cannot keep investing in them if they weren't getting value. Okay, so now, I'm talking about those big brands, not just because you have to be a global brand. All I'm saying is, even in your company, an organization will decide and say, look, if we lose so and so, we are going to lose money. And even when they are hiring, I've seen some HR professionals here, there are people who will say, okay, if we can get so and so on board, then we are guaranteed to win that deal. Then the business is guaranteed to grow. Meaning, what they are not attached, the word which they are not using is that the market value, that the value of the company or the organization is going to increase as a result of bringing this other personal brand that is this high. So meaning they know your brand is going to lift the organization from here to another level. Therefore, oh, by the way, in the same vein, there are certain personalities who will reduce the value of the organization. And so as I'm talking about this, I want you to ask yourself, is your personal brand enhancing the brand of your company? Is your personal brand enhancing where you're working from? Because then that gives us an idea of what your market value is. Okay. The good news is there are ways to enhance your brand, and we'll talk about that. It increases your market value, so that was a repetition. So let's talk about, just a second. So let's talk about this idea of which side would you rather be at? Would you rather be on this side where people will say, oh, the bank collapsed when Mr. X was the MD? Or the church compromised when Pastor Y was in office? The business collapsed when Mr. D took over as the CEO. The NGO lost a lot of money when Mrs. G was appointed finance officer. Or would you rather be on this other side, where you say, oh, the bank rose to great financial prominence when Mr. X was the MD. The church stood for truth when Pastor Y was in office. The business grew and expanded to new countries when Mr. D took over as CEO. The NGO improved its operations when Mrs. G was appointed finance officer. So tell me, would you rather be on the side of number one or the side of number two? Type in the chat box right now. Yeah? Would you type 1 or 2? I want to see. What do you vote? Even you choosing whether 1 or 2, you're pronouncing yourself to the universe that this is me. This is the territory I choose to occupy. This is the bucket I want to carry on my head. This is the gold I choose to step on, or I choose to step in dust. So for me, it's very important. Do not take some of these engagements for granted. You are making a statement to the universe. You're making a statement to God. Fantastic. Seeing 2, 2, 2, 2. Great. And that's what I would choose. And by the way, what I'm just saying, this is not hypothetical stuff. I got this from somewhere. Listen, I was seated in a Rotary meeting, and there's someone who was sharing with me. There is a certain personality, a very public personality. And here is someone who was saying something to me. A very prominent businessman was sharing this with me. He said, by the way, that Mr. So-and-so, he went to this organization, boom, brought it down. Went to this other organization, boom, brought it down. Meaning that was his brand. So what you're seeing on the screen is not hypothetical, it is real. There are people who will either raise corporations or organizations or bring them down. The question is which side? And we'll delve in that a bit deeper as we move along. All right. Now that we are done with clarity, let's talk about mindset. Okay? There are 3 mindsets that drive personal branding. And as I reveal these mindsets, I want you to gauge, think about, reflect, and see where do you stand with these mindsets. The first mindset is a distinctive person's mindset. You stand for something and you have a point of view. So meaning, how do I put this? Many years ago, I was about to finish campus. I believe that was 99, okay? So that should give you an idea of, I'm 43 years young as of this recording. And I remember this guy, he was called Fred Felton. He was an Afro-American. He was preaching at the swimming pool at Makerere University. And I remember him, he was a very passionate guy. He was a giant and fit and strong. The guy used to love chapati. He used to go to Mama's place and he said, chapati, give me chapati. But this time he was not talking about chapati. But then he was like, I want you to stand for something. You see, even if Hitler killed me, but at least he stood for something. Whether good or bad, at least let's know where you stand. Like, wow, so that stuck in my head. I was like, man, how can you even mention Hitler? That's the question I had then. But then as I grew older, I discovered that what he really meant, what he was illustrating, that you need to stand for something. Even the Bible talks about you not being lukewarm, neither cold nor hot. There are people who are like, oh, this, yeah. I've even had stories. I used to be a training consultant to British Council, and there's a guy called Richard. We used to work together. And he used to say that he hates managers who, the 2 people are in conflict, and instead of a manager making his position, says, you are actually right. Your case, you also have a point. And you also are right. You have a point also. And they don't make a decision. So meaning you have to stand for something and have a point of view. So that's part of branding, so that we know where you stand, so that we know where we can place you, because it can be frustrating when people can't place you somewhere, okay? And you notice even in the political arena, the most respected leaders are those whom we know that they stand for these ethos, they stand for these standards. So in the same way, you also have to make yourself clear to say, you know what, this is what I stand for, this is what I do not, or I do not stand for this. And when we say stand for something, it means there are things also you cannot stand. Okay. The other mindset is eternal relevance mindset. Okay. And it connects to what someone else considers to be important. When we say eternal relevance, it means for a lifetime. What sort of relevance do you want to create for a lifetime? What's the eternal view? What's the eternal imprint that you want to leave on planet Earth? And I'll be giving you some ideas on how to do that. The third mindset is perpetual consistency mindset. People believe in a relationship based on consistency of behaviors experienced or observed. This, every passing day, it amazes me. I'll give you an example. So since 1998, when I was seated in church and a gentleman called Gerard Serwaji was preaching, he was a businessman and a pastor. You've heard me talk about him before. He was my first mentor. Since that time when I knew that my call was to give hope, and God spoke to me clearly that what people need is hope. From then on, I declared myself, I made a choice that I wanted to focus on motivational speaking, helping people to grow and organizations. Then it was people, individuals, then organizations came later, but the theme stayed the same. So I've been on the same theme. I've been on the same journey. I could have added things or dropped some things, but I've been on the same journey. And what's amazing is sometimes I bump into people and say, oh, by the way, you spoke to us when we were at Namagunga, or you spoke to us when we were at Gayaza, or what, at Green Hill. I'm like, wow, but you're a manager here. And that manager, so to speak, is the one who influenced the decision for the HR or the MD to call me. Some of these people are decision makers. There are people who call me, say, oh, by the way, do you still do motivational speaking? Like, oh, I met you in 2005. I'm like, huh? What? So that's consistency. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, that if you discover that you've been on the wrong path for you not to change. What I'm saying is once you discover your path, it's important to have the mindset of consistency, to stay on the same path. Again, for people to know you for something. What's amazing is these days, one of my favorite questions to ask, especially for the young generation, is to say, okay, what are you up to these days? Because it appears as if a good number of people, they keep changing. They have moved, they are now an engineer, now before you know it, they're into agriculture, now before you know it, I'm considering, oh, now, and then before you know it, oh, now I'm considering designs and all that. Now, having said that, I also know there are people who are multidimensional and they were designed to do so many things. Those are very few characters. Unless you're such a character, what I'm saying is you need to be known for something. One or two things. If you're known for 10 things, there are some people you notice, they flip the card and it's like they are like in 20 industries. Now, again, like I've mentioned, there are people who are wired to do many things. Now, when I say many things, though, you'll notice the most successful still, they are still running on the same theme. What do I mean by that? For example, you might say, oh, but so-and-so is in many industries. Well, his path is entrepreneurship. So that's okay. If your calling is entrepreneurship, start enterprises, then it's very okay to start so many businesses in different arenas. There are people who are wired like that, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm saying the majority of us, you'll find that the way God wired you is you're meant to focus on something. And later we'll be talking about purpose in one of the sessions. So therefore you need to focus on that to have that perpetual consistency. Such people know you for something. Hello. All right. Cool. Now that we have the clarity, we know the mindsets, let's think about the strategies. All right. Come on, strategies flow. Here are the 4 strategies. Number one is the interpersonal relationships. For example, the respect you offer, the communication. And also part of this, it's also some of those things you do when no one is seeing. Okay. Then sooner rather than later, they will come to light. I recall, I have a good friend of mine, she's called Nora Matovu. She's a lawyer, she's on several boards, and she's a very, she's an amazing character. So this is what she told me a couple of years ago while we were on a program, a British Council program together. And she said, look, I tell my children that leadership is what you do when no one is seeing. For example, when you go to the bathroom and no one is seeing, what do you do? Now, you might consider it to be very distant and irrelevant. Let me bring it to context. I will tell you, for example, that if you go to the bathroom at the workplace and you don't leave it clean, no one is seeing when you're not cleaning it. But guess what? Someone else might come in just when you're about to leave the bathroom, and the state they will find it in will be part and parcel of your personal brand. Now, you might say, how does that relate to interpersonal relationships? It means you are not conscious enough of how your actions or lack thereof impacts your colleagues at the workplace. My friends, when we talk about personal branding, it's not the big shiny objects. It's those little tiny things. I was talking about that gentleman, Richard Cox. We used to do programs, to facilitate programs together at British Council, and he told me the idea of the coffee stain. The coffee stain concept is, if you go on the aeroplane and they bring, or you go, whether it's an aeroplane or it's a restaurant, and then you see a coffee stain. In this case, he was using the example of an aeroplane. If you see a coffee stain on, say, a piece of cloth that you're supposed to use, or whatever it is, or napkin or something like that, then you imagine in your head, you make conclusions that, hey, so everything else in this entity is not up to world-class standards. That's what we mean right there. So the stain, you saw it, or possibly you dropped it there, no one was seeing, but then it comes out, but then it impacts their relationships. Number two is a well-defined personality. For example, are you known as a reader, as a learner, a timekeeper, reliable, integrity, cheerleader, straightforward, great mentality, positive vibes? For us, I know, for example, the late Prime Minister, Apollon Sibambi, which character was he exemplifying of all these that I've mentioned? Someone type in the chat box. The late Apollon Sibambi, Professor Apollon Sibambi. So for some of us who know the late Professor Apollon Sibambi, know that he espoused the idea of timekeeping. That you had to be in a meeting at a particular time. If you're not there, the doors are closed. He was known for that. That was a defined personality, a defined one. So what are you known for? So there are people who know that. So I'll give you an example. Someone who helped me in this. I told you about Dr. Gerard Serwaji, but one of the things he told to me was this. We had our first meeting, our first mentoring meeting was supposed to be at Watoto Church. Then it used to be called KPC, Kampala Road. So I was supposed to appear in that meeting at 6 p.m. So I was still a university student, like I mentioned when I first met him. So I appeared, it was 5 minutes past 6. So I call him. I'm not seeing him around. Said, yes, Pastor Gerard, I'm not seeing you. Where are you? He said, okay, so what time is it now? I said, it's 5 minutes past 6. He said, 6 is 6. I have left. I said, but it's just 5 minutes, Pastor Gerard, it's just 5 minutes past 6. He says, 6 is 6. He switched off. From then on, he changed my perspective around time. So it was his defined personality. He valued time. He valued appointments. He wanted to keep his word. So I pulled off that trick to one of the lawyers who also wanted me to mentor him. So he came a few minutes, I believe for him, he came about 10 minutes past. And I said, you know what, we'll have to reschedule. Up to now, he still talks about it. So, so those of you who know me know that, okay, if we mention a particular time, then we are supposed to meet at that particular time. In case something extraordinary happens, I will call. So one of the strategies you need to choose and say, okay, for me, I want to be known for this. Cheerleader. Nathan has been in some of the trainings, and one of the things I liked about him is that we're doing a program on 90-day sales marketing challenge. And for him, whenever, you know, we would celebrate successes on a daily basis, and, you know, you would see him, oh, that's fantastic. Oh, you're headed for the for greatness. Oh, you're champion. Oh, wow, you're rocking. You know, he uses all these exciting words. I was like, you know what, Nathan, you're going to be you're our number one cheerleader. That's something he brings. He brings those positive vibes. So the thing is, what is the personality you're choosing to push forward? And I'm actually going to ask you to pause. Okay, if you're watching the recording, to pause this video and write down, what is that you want to be known for? The other key is a professional gem. Are you excellent at your trade? Do you go an extra mile? Meaning you stand out from your professional crowd. You know, one of the things I would encourage you to consider is that, look, there are many people who are average. And one of the things that you can do to really stand out is just to choose to be excellent, just to choose to go that extra mile. It will make you stand out. I'll give you an example. Just the idea of just being known as great timekeeper makes you stand out. I mean, for goodness sake, we remember the late Professor Sibambi as part of time. So the key thing is, though, besides the time, which is the personality on the professionalism, it is that idea of you choosing to design, to do things, to execute, to make things happen, to deliver things quickly. I know someone who was talking about, I know that there's someone who went for an interview, and this is from a very reliable source. And this person who went for that interview was asked, say, look, can you develop a concept paper in terms of what we stand for and what you are, why we should hire you and all this, and you send it to us? And then they asked, okay, the gentleman asked to say, okay, so how soon do you want this? And then the answer was from the hiring authorities, you know what, it's really up to you, take your time. What this fellow did is by the following morning, meaning in less than, say, 12 hours or thereabouts, he had already sent in the write-up. Trust me, that created an impression, a big impression. He went an extra mile. He had the option to do 2 days or even a week. He chose to do it in less than 20 hours. Boom, document sent. That speaks volumes. That's going an extra mile. So at a professional level, you can choose to be average just like anyone else, or you can choose to step up. When I was still at one time I used to go through lots of programs by Les Brown when I just finished university. And one of the statements that really stuck with me up to now is he said, you know what, my friend, one of his mentors told him, I said, aim for the top because it is the bottom that is crowded. Just going that extra mile. A professional gem. See, I've never supported, I'm a soccer fan. I've never supported the teams that Cristiano Ronaldo has played. He has played for, I mean, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Juventus. I've never supported any of those teams. But guess what? I have a huge respect for the guy. This guy goes to the gym, goes after working, after every soccer match, when others are going to drink and hang out, the guy goes to the gym, then goes to the swimming pool and does a couple of rounds. So the fellow is what? Is he 35 or 36 or thereabouts? He's still at the peak of his powers. Some of the people he started with, we don't even remember them, but the guy is still performing and earning millions and millions of dollars. He chose to be a professional gym. So you could be an HR person, you could be an accountant, you could be a professor, you could be a salesperson, you could be that. How can you be that professional gem that stands out, that not only, and here is something else I would like to add. Another guy challenged me, said, being excellent is not enough. You have to be outstanding. So my desire for you and I is that we challenge ourselves. And I know I'm not perfect either. I mean, sometimes even my wife calls me on it. My daughter calls me on it. When I fall short, my colleagues call me on it. And I love it because they're challenging me to be better. And therefore, one of the tricks, by the way, here in terms of the strategies to become a professional gem is be open to feedback and be open to be challenged, and do not only listen to people who want to tell you good things, be willing to also listen to those who tell you the challenging things. In Uganda, there is a saying, when swere kwagala yekugwa kubwa, that the literal direct translation is, if a fly really loves you, it will come and land on your wound, and then when you feel that pain, it's a reminder. It's not that the fly is just nagging you or anything. No, it's reminding you. So in other words, to be grateful for that nagging reminder to go fix the wound. Therefore, to become a professional gem, you need those who can cheer you on. You also need those who can challenge you, meaning you need the 2 C's. Please write that one down. You need cheerleaders and you need challengers. There's a guy who broke was it the 4-minute, was not the 4-minute mile, the marathon, the guy from Kenya, is that Kipchoge? Please, you can type in the chat box. In terms of the timeline, that the guy who made the world record and he was all over the world, was he Kipchoge? And you can remind me. But what I remember is part of the game plan, and I remember seeing them live, seeing him crossing the line live, and we had gone for a marriage retreat. And I remember Joseph, my best friend, calling me, hey, come and see, the guy's about to break the record. And part of what he did when they were running, he also got Olympic class personalities. Those are the ones he was running with to help him set the pace. They were challengers, but also on the streets, they were cheerleaders. So they were cheerleaders, hey, go, 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 go. But then there were challengers, people who are already very up there, who are pushing him by running super fast that he can beat the mark. So if you really want to be world class, get cheerleaders and challengers. If you want to be a professional gem, that's a quick tip for you. The other one is physical aspects like dressing, problem management, your style. What's your style? How do you dress? So I mean, typically before this business of working from home full-time, Monday to Friday, typically whenever you'd find me out there, I would be putting on a suit. I'm not saying that's the only way. It's just this, what I had chosen. Just that now I would find it weird to be at home putting on a suit. But I'm also thinking it wouldn't hurt. It would add extra value. So the key thing is, what's your dressing aspect? Problem management. Are you the type that generates problems or solutions? Yeah, Goretti reminds me. Thank you, Eliud Kipchoge. Yeah, thank you. So the key thing is you have to be not only, how do you manage challenges or problems? Are you the type, there is a saying that you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And people say, oh, I'm not part of that. No, well, if you're not generating solutions, then you're part of the problem. Okay. So if you pay attention to the relationships and who you are in private, you have a well-defined personality, you're a professional gem, you have a great style of doing things, then you have a solid strategic framework to build upon to create a great personal brand, okay? All right, we're done with the clarity, the mindsets, the strategies, and then the skill set. Now let's go to the skill set. Let's talk about the framework for improving your personal brand. So I'm going to share with you two frameworks. Let's start with this first one. Number one is brand definition. You need to define your brand based on the 4 strategies given to you. And then you need to ask yourself, what are your core values? What do you stand for? What legacy do you want to leave behind? Now, these are questions you can write down now. Then this evening, please, or afternoon or morning now, if you're watching the recording, just pause and write this down now, okay? Some of us who are live, you can just take note. Next is to ask yourself the question, when we talk about branding, is to also to audit your personal brand. Can you audit your personal brand? Audit your personal brand. How are you measuring up? Okay. Now, in fact, I want you to, those of you who are watching the recording, I want you to pause and Google your name. What comes up? So, what popped up is how the world perceives you right now. So meaning, if you're fully satisfied, well done, congratulations, stay on track. If you feel that it does not reflect who you truly are, then you need to engage certain gears, which I will alert you about shortly. Okay. The other key to note is your digital world. Edit your digital footprint. Clean out what no longer represents you. So there could be a Facebook post you made that no longer, that possibly you made when you are angry and does not reflect who you truly are. Delete it. If you can delete it, there could be things you posted that are undeletable. Excuse me. If they are not, that's one matter. But if they are not, please clean it up. Clean it up because it will be found anyhow. Now, there are sites where people can still track. There's what they call Wayback Machine, I believe that's the word, where they can track the history of your website, for example, and all that. They can still find some of these things, but that's for people who are highly skilled. But those which do not represent you, stop them, okay? Next, brand story. What's your, refine your CV, update your LinkedIn. Update your LinkedIn profile. Some of the people who come to me, part of what I coach people in is career transitioning, meaning people who want to move from one position to another in their career. And sometimes I ask them, okay, when is the last time you updated your LinkedIn? Like, oh my goodness, I haven't updated it for the last 3 to 4 years. Wrong. Number 2. Oh, and why is it important? Because remember, some of you told me that the things that popped up, the first thing that popped up was your LinkedIn page. Therefore, that's what people are going to see. So does it represent you? Start a blog. Either pay for a website where you can start posting a blog. If you don't have the budget, you can open a free blog. Goreti.wordpress.com or nabanjajoan.wordpress or namsoke or john whatever.blogspot.com, because again, you want to showcase to the world what your thoughts are, what you stand for. Again, when you're blogging, you're telling the world, the other segment I told you, what you stand for. The people want to know, who is this person really? Apart from the CV, who is this person really? The people want to dig deeper. Then they are reading your blog. They are reading your videos you've posted, the thoughts you have on your social media and all that. They want to see. The other one is mend broken relationships. Go back. It's okay to say sorry. I know some of us guys, it's very difficult because we have huge egos. Guys, let me talk to you. Because I can, so, because then if you have a broken relationship, it will come again it may come back to haunt your brand. Now you might say, oh, but the other one should be the first one to make a step and all. Yeah, what can you initiate to make sure that it's healed? And the other key to pay attention to, though, is there are also people who have developed a brand of being the kinds that cause chaos. You go here, you cause chaos in this organization, you go in this family, you cause chaos, you go here, and you're known, your brand is that of a conflict-creating machine. If you're a conflict-creating machine, come, we lay hands on you and pray for you. Please, I would say mend broken relationships and start nurturing relationships. Professional email address, I know that's an area that I sometimes fall short on myself. Truth is, because I love Gmail, but that's something that I know I have to work on. I have to be very frank with you. I know that I'm weak on that, but that doesn't take away the value of this. Professional email address, meaning ideally, if I were you, by the way, the other thing I would do is secure your domain name. Go to GoDaddy, it's about $10 a year. At least if you can't open a website, at least secure your name, because time will come where people will buy your domain name, and then to get it, you have to pay them. One day you might become super popular. You go to GoDaddy to get a domain name and someone has already taken it, and now you have to pay. Okay. Next, keep up with industry news. What I mean by that, you need to know, if you're an engineer, do you know the latest breakthroughs in engineering, whether it's nanotechnology or whatever it is? What is it that you know? You need to know. You need to keep yourself up to date. The other key is create your personal value proposition. What will make you stand out? When I say personal value proposition, then I mean, what do you help people do? The way to do that, to frame that, by the way, is you say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I help people solve this, or I help people create this. And what will make you stand out is also to figure out what are those things that you can do that will separate you from the rest of the crowd. By the way, let me give you a quick tip here. When it comes to, I know I'll be talking about personal marketing, but let me give you a quick tip here. So for me, when I'm introducing myself, I don't just stop at, hi, my name is Ethan Musolini. I always say, oh, hi, my name is Ethan Musolini. I'm a motivational speaker, human resource trainer, life and career and business coach. So in a moment, boom, I've told people who I am. I'll talk a little more about that in personal marketing, but I wanted to give you that extra heads up because that's part of personal value proposition. What is the value? Because what's the value that you stand for? And then I will also talk about how do you communicate that. Next is you need to reinvent. You need to keep reinventing yourself. See what works and what doesn't. Up until 2 weeks ago, I was delivering these sessions and working while seated. That's what I've done for decades. But the last 2 weeks, I've been working standing. 90 to 95% of the time, I'm standing. Right now, I am standing. You know what? It gives me more energy. Then my spine is safer. Especially the fact that you are working from home, you reinvent yourself with the times. You just can't keep staying the same. Brands reinvent themselves. I'll give you a hint. I take water, for goodness sake. And I know someone who, so I do not take soda typically. But you know what? I love the fact that Coca-Cola always has a new form of advert. They're always reinventing. Guess what? Coca-Cola also discovered that they have to go into the soft drink, into things like water and juices, because they noticed that people's health options were expanding beyond soda. That's reinvention. That's why it keeps as a multi-billion-dollar company. So therefore, in the same way, us as individuals, we need to keep thinking. For example, if you are not working on your digital marketing or technical skills, computer, how to reach out to people online, you're going to be left in the dust. Because now, before, it used to be that you can aim and say, okay, there's this other workshop or there's this other party, I can go and hang in there and talk and chat and engage. Yeah, but now the world is digital. So you are home, then what? If you can't engage with the world, then you will stay at home and then the world will leave you. So I am learning every day how to be better with this online world. So if you cannot start to think like a virtual human resource manager, a virtual salesperson, a virtual operations person, a virtual something, then the world is going to leave you, my friend. You have to reinvent yourself. And that also means you have to increase your digital footprint. The same way you'd go to physical workshops and write your name and exchange business cards and all that, you have to find a way to engage. Now, I know some of us, it's not fun, it's not good, it's not cool. Yeah, some of these things, but you have to find a way. Start somewhere. I mean, spend 5 minutes doing something. Say something. Let the world know that you exist. Hello. Let the world know that you are there. People need to feel your brand. Think about it. If a company like Coca-Cola can advertise every day, how about you and I? That's a thought. Now, the second model is something that I believe in very strongly. I call it the Ethan Musolini's personal branding, pet-free. So use pet-free as a framework. And this is how I look at it. It's 3 components. There is the results or experiencing stage, the doing stage, and then the being stage. Okay. On the being stage, you need to define your personal strategic plan. Actually, you know what? I should be starting from the top. I'm going to put everything up here now. So number 1, you start from the end of life. You start from the top, not the bottom. You start from the top. So at the top, you ask yourself, and for me, this is why I feel it is revolutionary, the way I think about this, because I've never seen someone frame it this way. Branding starts from thinking from the end of your life. I borrowed this idea from Stephen Covey of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I made so much sense, and I saw that it actually fits into the idea of personal branding. So in other words, you start from the end of your life. So the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the habits is beginning with the end in mind. And when I was reading this book, I believe it was in the year 2000, said, imagine you're at the end of your life and you have a representative from your family, representative from your friends, representative from your workplace, a representative from your community. What do you want them to say at your funeral? It was such a sobering thought, but it stuck with me. And I believe that's the ultimate branding strategy. Personal branding strategy. What do you want people to say about you? In other words, what's your legacy? Now, tonight, I want you to think about the stories you want all those personalities to say at the end of your life. That's part 1, the results stage. And then next, you ask yourself, okay, if this is the story I want people to say about me, how do I need to behave What do I need to do that will make these 4 personalities say what I want them to say? This is deep stuff that I'm sharing with you right now. Because those stories will be shared based on what you've done. And then next is, once you say, okay, if this is what I want to do, what language do I need to say to myself and to others that will make this behavior very, very possible? For example, if you want people to say that you were loving, then it means you need to, number one, to love yourself. You need to remind yourself that I love myself. And next is you also need to love others, of course. If you want people to say that you love them, then you need to tell them that I love you. Then you need to demonstrate on the execution and behaving is you need to do demonstrations of love. Things that will make people say, oh, this person really loves me. And then you do certain things that will make them say that you love them. And then you say certain things that will confirm that you truly love them. Next, you ask yourself, okay, if I want to use that language and to do that thing, how do I need to feel in the moment for me to actually execute or behave this way? Then you say, okay, that means I need to feel an emotion of love. Get me at the doing stage here. I need to feel the emotion of love in myself. I need to feel happy, because you will not make people happy, you will not make people feel loved if you're angry, as an example. If you feel angry, you will not exude love. And then you ask yourself, okay, if I want to feel this, how do I need to think? Say, okay, if I need that, then I need to think in a certain way. I need to think thoughts of love. I need to ideas of love. I need to be positive, as an example. Those are the thoughts that you need. Then you say, the next question you ask yourself, okay, if I need to feel and think this, then what sort of environment do I need that will generate these thoughts, these feelings, this language, and these actions? Well, part of the environment could be what sort of people do you need to be with? That's part of the environment. What sort of desk do I need to work in? What sort of bedroom do I need to have? All right. And then next, you ask yourself, okay, if I need all these, then I need what we call a personal strategic plan. Then once you have this personal strategic plan, it's what will have all these things laid out. Once this personal strategic plan is in place and you have all this, and then there's execution and a plan to do this, my friend, this is in one page right now. I've shown in one slide, I've shown you the master plan of a personal strategic plan. This is my own creation that I came up with to come to these conclusions. And this is based on what I've noticed that I've used myself to brand myself the way I am over the years from whom I was. Okay. Cool. Justin says that I would like to think about what I would want to hear on my 80th birthday other than my funeral. Perfectly fine, and makes a lot of sense indeed. All right. So you may then think about it in your, you could ask yourself, in my twilight years, when I'm celebrating my 80th birthday or 90th birthday, what do I want people to say? Okay. Goret says it does require lots of reflection. Absolutely. Great. Cool. So then let's move to mastery. How do we then embody this knowledge? Number one is search for online communities in your area of interest, so that you can speak the same language, you can be the same vibe, you can be in the same space to make things happen. The other one is push your brand as much as possible, meaning talk about yourself, introduce yourself, make sure that things are in alignment. That's always very important. Then start a blog and write. And of course, not only that, is impact using your online channels. So that also means you pay attention to what you are publishing. So you will, if you look at my social media channels, I'm very intentional. What I mean by that is you'll not see me abusing people, You'll not see me talk about politics and how this is such a mess. You will not see me complaining. Not that my life is perfect or I'm very happy about everything going on in the world. But you know what? I've chosen my brand to be a space where people come to be uplifted, to learn, to grow, to expand, and that's it. And then there are people who are called to do that other business of political analysis and all that. Some people come to me and say, but Ethan, there are these things. Can you do an analysis about the political situation and all that? I'm like, no. I chose not to. That's not my area. That's not my calling. That's not my passion. That's not my brand. So please also remember not to be pulled in a million spaces. Then you don't have an identity. So for me, this is very, very key. You have to be super intentional about how you choose to move and live your life. And then you make sure that all your online channels, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is, it's in alignment with who you are and what you choose to be. Okay. Cool. So shortly we'll be going into the rooms, and the key thing is to ask yourself, what did you find most useful in this presentation, and how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward in your life and career stroke business? So that's very, very important for you to communicate and be. All right. So just before I send you there, I need to show you something else here. And that is before you go to your spaces. And just a second. So once again, I know that once again, I'm reminded for what Jojo said earlier, in that if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. So my friend, I'm challenging you to stand for something, whatever that is. Stand for excellence, stand for a cause, stand for value. Most importantly, stand for something that adds value not only to you, but to the rest of the world. May the good Lord be with you, bless you immensely as you push your brand forward to the next level.